Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have another e-waste haul on the Retro Recall. That's right, 3 more systems saved from e-waste. That hunk of area that all these systems go to get turned into spoons. Yes, we've talked about that. This system though, I'm thinking should have stayed in e-waste, but we'll get to that in a moment. So we have an Acer OEM system, we have a Hewlett-Packard OEM system, and we have a Dell OEM system. Can't do an e-waste haul without a Dell somewhere in the mix. They all look the same, but they're all different. So in today's video, we're going to go over each individual system, see what they were like back in the day, and see if we can get them to post. I have no idea what's in these systems. I have no idea. They haven't been turned on. I don't even know if the power supplies work in them. So you know what? We have lots to do. Let's get right to it. To start, we have system number 1. We have an Acer Multimedia desktop computer. Now, Acer had a bad rap through the years. AOPEN peripherals, AOPEN components were pretty strong, but Acer systems were kind of known as the type of entry-level OEM system you could get, at least from what I understood in the market. So we have the Acer Multimedia desktop. We have a label flash DVD multi-reader CDRW drive, so a very capable drive. We have a multi-card reader here where it reads your compact flash, your SD media, USB in the front, Media Stick Pro. There's different variations of different, flash cards you could read. Now, back in the day, this was definitely helpful, definitely helped to be able to read different types of media. I thought it was pretty cool as we were veering on away from the floppy disk drive and different types of media to compact flash or to flash type media. These drives, called a drive, kind of disappeared in the market and in favor of, larger media and what have you. But given the vintage era, these are starting to come back, specifically if you're talking about different reads, compact flash to IDE drives, being able to put them in here, write to them, and move them from system to system. So these are starting to come back, I've noticed, and have been very, very helpful. So this system is sporting what it says is an AM1201-E1621A, which is a 4400 plus AMD Athlon X2 dual core processor. So a pretty decent CPU that's in here. We have a 2 gigabytes of DDR memory. We have a 320 gigabyte SATA hard disk, if that's what is in here. Not sure what's in here. Super multi-drive and McAfee Internet Security Trial. So I like how they put trial software in their permanent sticker for what was inside these systems. And we have a 9-in-1 card reader, and it's showing Windows Vista Home Premium. Again, not knowing what's in the system. I don't know if it has a hard drive in here or not. Then on the front, we have ATI Radeon graphics. So another Pro, is that what's truly in here? Not sure. Windows Vista case badge that we have on here. And again, the AMD Athlon X2. So we have the power in the corner here. And then we have kind of like this rubberized mat. And no, this is not for coffee and putting your hot drinks on. This is for what I believe was for at the time for putting like an external USB drive, like one of those hard drives, sitting on top of this, or, sometimes I remember seeing one of these in my family before where, they had some media stacked on it, whatever. But we have 4 additional USB ports up here, which would feed the theory of having the external USB drive. But we also have a microphone and a headphone jack in the front, which is extremely convenient for what we would want to do, it being a multimedia type PC. So let's flip it around here on the side and look at it. So on the side, we have the Acer emblem on the side. Pretty nice looking. This system doesn't seem to have any damage at all to it. There's no dents. There's no scratches. Looks like it was just well looked after and then dropped off to e-waste. Manufacturing date of 2008. So August 30th of 2008. Okay, let's flip it around the back and see what we have in terms of expansion. So we have a very dirty, by the looks of things, PSU. There's our power. We have 2 PS2 ports. We have a DVI and a VGA port here. So it's interesting to see the DVI built on. And then we have 4 USB. We have a FireWire, 1394 connection FireWire, Again, FireWire is something I never got into. I see these ports all the time. I just never did. I don't know if I just jumped right onto USB drives or what, but I just never got into that mix. We have, I would assume, a gigabit Ethernet port, and we have 6 ports for your audio. So decent. Again, it's boasting itself as a multimedia system. So with the super multi-drive, and then you have the graphics card, and you have the media here, and then you have the multi-reader in the front. I mean, it's boasting a lot of those features. Now, what I like about this is the toolless design, assuming that this actually works. So we'll flip it around here again, and we'll see what's inside in terms of the motherboard. There we are. We have that. I am glad we opened this up because I'm not seeing a case fan in this computer, a CPU fan on this computer. I'm just seeing the heatsink. So I'm not sure if this all that's required was a heatsink, but I do see a CPU fan header here. So I'm a little concerned why that would not be in there. Okay, so we have our power supply here. We have some type of cable management in terms of some zip ties or cable ties here. And we have multiple, what looks like multiple USB. You can see all the different headers going down, all the different wires to the headers on the board. Multiple USB connections up top here, which are all glued to looks like a mini main board up here, but that's what powers the USB ports on the top. And then here we also have the Acer drive, manufactured of October of 2008. Okay, then we have our processor here. And again, not having the fan on here, we need a fan in here. That said, there's no hard drive in here. So we won't be getting very far with this system today, just because where there's no hard drive, not going to be much to see or explore on the system. But we have our ATX power supply connecting here. It looks like we only have 2 of the 4 potential RAM banks populated with the actual socket. So 2 are missing, 2 are here. We have 2 populated, probably boasting the 2 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, so I see 1 here and 1 there. So yeah, there's 2 gigabytes of RAM, so that is correct. I'm going to assume the processor is correct as well. I'm going to see if I have a fan I can pop on there just to get this system posting. I mean, to post doesn't take much, just to turn it on real quick to see if it posts. The heatsink should be able to dissipate the heat enough, which we may just have to do, but we'll see. Okay, so we have, let's look at PCI 16 and PCI 1X lane there. We also have 2 PCI here, giving you additional expansion. We have all of the motherboard components in the back here. It's just interesting to see that they had a lot more space. And it looks like there's additional headers here that are unpopulated as well on the motherboard. So it must have been for different models and different configurations of these boards. Now, AOpen, obviously, were a very popular board, at least in my day. I liked being able to utilize those boards. So I don't know if Acer manufacturing, I know they owned AOpen, so I would imagine these boards are based on that technology. So hopefully it'd be pretty reliable, unless later in life, as the OEM started to manufacture their own systems, this became cheaper and cheaper, and of course didn't do much. So I'm looking through here, and I'm not seeing many or any issues here with the caps. Again, being in 2008, I'm not sure. I don't think that was in the cap era, the bad cap era, but good. It's always good to check that out, specifically around the power supply and the heatsink, just because there's extra warmth here, and it's good to just check to make sure, because they are exposed to additional heat. This cap here might be leaking. I'm not sure, just given the angle I'm on here. So again, just good to check. All right, we have what looks like 6 SATA connections, which is pretty awesome in here. So you'll be able to have 6 connected. We have the cabling here to be able to connect a drive, but the drive's just not here. And then we still have a legacy IDE port on this board, which again is very awesome. Specifically, if you had older drives or IDE to CF adapter, the same thing with the SATA CF or SATA to flash memory. Now, again, everyone knows on this channel, I love the spinning Rust. I have tons of drives, and I'll use them every day in these systems. I think that is it. So I'm going to take the risk of, we have this firmly planted on the CPU. Turning it on briefly just to see if it posts, just to make sure that we can get that far, would be very handy. And then we can determine in a future video what we're going to do with the system. So stay tuned. We're going to pause this, get the bench all set up to be able to turn this on. Okay, we have the bench all set up with our monitor, keyboard. I don't have a mouse connected because we know there's no hard drive. So unless it has a graphical interface for the BIOS, I'm not really worried about that. And, in terms of using a mouse, And then we have our system all set up here as well. I think this is a good, nice looking setup, actually. You know, thinking about back in the day, I mean, they were not a bad looking computer for sure. Definitely just not as generic and plain. So nice to see that. Okay, hitting the power button, see what happens. I got power, but no post. Okay, I'm going to take a look at that again and see if I can find a fan in case the hardware monitoring system is saying, hey, there's no fan connected. It's, you know, could be complaining about that. I'm also going to reseat the memory just in case there's an issue with the memory, and we'll try it again. Okay, and we are back, and I spent quite a bit of time troubleshooting this computer because it was wasn't posting, and it wasn't just posting, it wasn't giving me any postcodes. So I obviously tried a new fan type heatsink setup. That didn't work, didn't make any difference at all. I tried a different video card. I have a PCIe video card here, put it in, didn't do anything at all. I tried a different keyboard just in case there was an issue with the keyboard, and for whatever reason it didn't like it. I used a USB keyboard. That didn't work. I even tried a different power supply. I tested it with a multimeter to make sure everything kind of lined up, and did that, and still it did not work. And so I was lost for words here. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's that cap that I think is going bad, might be causing some trouble. Then I thought, you know what? For the heck of it, we'll swap out the CR2032. That's, well, at the end of the day, that's all I did. So hit the power, and it beeped at me. I reseated the RAM as well, and that didn't make a difference until I changed this out. It's crazy to think how much the systems rely on these little batteries. It doesn't always do that. I mean, I've had several systems that don't rely on this. Doesn't matter if they're dead or not. And it was just something I had in my mind. I thought, well, I tried all the big things first. That didn't make a difference. Well, guess what? That's all it was. So we have a posting machine. So it's showing here we have 2 gigs of RAM of DDR2 memory. And then it says CMOS settings wrong. Date and time not set up. We know about this, right? Because we just swapped it out. Let's go into setup and just see what we have. Pretty standard setup. I just love the look of this. So product information. So we have an Acer Aspire M1201 system. And it comes with a whole bunch of other information that we need. So we have advanced chipset settings. So in here we have the AMD Athlon 64X2 dual core processor 4400 plus, running at 2300 megahertz with a 1 megabyte of L2 cache on board. So in here you can obviously do some different frequency changes and things like that depending on what you want to do on the system. So yeah, I think this is pretty darn good. How are we running there? Yeah, it's starting to climb up in temperature there. So I'm just going to go ahead and discard changes and turn off the computer. Yeah, to get the system up running, it'd be really cool. I'd like to do a little bit more with it. So I think it definitely needs to have, it definitely needs to have a proper CPU cooler on there. So I'll get that installed. A proper hard drive, we'll get that installed here as well. Do a proper cleanup. There's a little bit of dust inside, but all in all, it's pretty decent. Plus with onboard ATI Radeon graphics, it'd be definitely cool to see what we can do with this system. Okay, let's move on to system number 2. And here we are with system number 2. We have a Hewlett-Packard HP Pavilion system. Now, this is obviously a desktop computer, desktop form factor. We'll go over it real quickly here. So here we have another OEM version of a system versus like a custom build. And we have a smart media. We show our compact flash reader, SD mini, as well as a multi-card reader basically built in. Similar to what we had in the other system, that other system had more of a generic one, where this is more proprietary to Hewlett-Packard. Then we have a LightScribe DVD super multi-drive CD writer, which is missing. We don't have it in here. It would have been nice to have that. But anyway, I don't know, hopefully that's not a sign of things to come in terms of not having any drives in the system. And number 2 obviously wasn't populated because we don't have the breakout punch out here removed. We'll have to definitely find one of those. And the HP Pocket Media Drive Bay. So I never had one of these. I saw them on the market back in the day. I just never had one. So we have our front audio ports that we have, easy access. 2 additional USB 2 ports, that's what it's labeled. And again, that FireWire. I don't know if I was out of the loop and I just never used it. So we have graphics by NVIDIA. We have the Hewlett-Packard symbol here. We have Windows Vista, and it's sporting an AMD 64 live CPU. So we'll figure out that here in a moment. I like the general look of this computer. Styling is fairly basic, but hopefully the power of the system is not. So we have on the side here the HP logo here and some additional ventilation on the side. On the back, okay, so we have our power supply, and my guess would be that's very proprietary to this case. And then we have what looks like a modem installed in here. So I don't know if that's given away its age or not, but we definitely have that. We have an audio card here with 6 ports. We have Ethernet, built-on Ethernet, another 1394 FireWire connection. My goodness, I don't know where I was in the world, but apparently that's a thing. So additional USB. We have built-on video. Of note, I forgot to mention, we do have some expansion here, which is great. We have 2 PS2 ports, but then we also have a digital audio out, and it's orange, where the other one, and I think that's the proper color for it, whereas in my previous video, when this came up, it was yellow, and it confused me because of what it is. Okay, on the side, we have, I love when manufacturers did this. It tells you everything that was in these systems. So let's go right here, and we have the Hewlett-Packard Pavilion A6318F PC, the perfect PC for digital photos, videos, and music. So AMD Live, smarter digital entertainment. AMD Athlon 64X2 5200 plus with 2 gigs of RAM, 320 gigabyte hard drive, DVD burner, which we know is missing. HP PhotoSmart Essential, that's probably a package that came with it. We have NVIDIA GeForce 6150 SE graphics, which are built on, and Vista Home Premium. Then it gives you what we have. We have a 15 card reader versus the 9 card that we had before. We also have 1-year limited PC hardware warranty and support. Yay! HP Pocket Media Drive Bay. Drives are sold separately, though. And then we have front access to audio and USB ports. I'm wondering, though, if you were using the front USB on this or the front 1394 connection, does it disable or deactivate the rear-facing one? So I don't know where it says front access to that, or if it's just in addition to utilizing the resources of the system. So it's fairly basic in terms of design for what it is, but you know what? I'm really curious to see what we have inside of it. Now, is this toolless? No. Let's flip it around. Just make sure it's on the right side here. Is this a different type of form factor again? All right, we have this out now. So we have the power supply up here. We have what looks like area where the bays could go. You know, this looks like it just kind of switches back and forth. It's its own system, how it's set up in here. So it'd be interesting to try a different drive and get that installed. We have additional caddy here and here for, looks like hard drives would go into these positions. And then you'd be able to connect them via there is an IDE port on here and one floppy drive port on here on the actual motherboard. But up here we have 3 SATA connections, which is always nice to see in this type. I love the hybrid type of boards. Then we have a PCIe 16 and PCIe 1, and then we have 2 PCI ports here. And that's where that modem is sitting in there. It's nice to see a cooler on here for the AMD versus just the heatsink like we had before. And we have 2 of the 4 RAM slots, DDR RAM slots that are populated, probably boasting that 2 gigs of memory. And then we also have another accessory fan that's installed here, which I always love seeing. You know, if they have the ventilation ports, utilize them. It doesn't cost the manufacturer much to do this. And if you have it on your systems, whether it's an OEM system or a custom, you know, ventilation cooling is the best. So use it as much as you can. Now, I am seeing quite a bit of dirt around the CPU itself and around the actual caps that are around it. These 2 caps for sure are bulging right next to the power supply. Those 2, I would even argue 3 are bulging of the 4 there. So it'd be interesting to see if this even powers up. This could have been the reason why this was brought to e-waste, but I accept the challenge of getting those capacitors redone. There's another one here that looks like it's bulging, and there's another one here as well. So we have at least 5 caps that I'm showing that are bulging, not leaking yet. So it'd be really good to get those replaced on this board if we decide to do anything with this system. Okay, I'm gonna rearrange the bench, get that stuff kind of set up over here, and get this system all ready to see if it powers on. Okay, here we are, all set back up on the bench, ready to test. Let's hit the power button, which is up here, and I believe I have everything connected correctly. Let's see what happens. It definitely fires up in terms of sound of the fan. Nothing on the keyboard. Yeah, so we just have the fan consistently running at a speed here. I'm going to do the old change in RAM out, do the video card test, and check out that CMOS battery, and we'll be right back. So, troubleshooting on this computer conducted. Definitely reseated the memory. It didn't work. So I checked, and that modem card I just removed from the system just to see if it was causing any difficulty. And again, that didn't work either. So I just popped that back in there. And then all of a sudden I said, okay, well, let's replace the CMOS battery in, because we did that earlier and it seemed to work fine. No, did not work at all. And I'm going, all right, well, it's doing the exact same symptom. Let's reseat that memory one more time. I'm not getting any postcodes. I'm just going to try it out. And sure enough, I did it a second time and it didn't work. And I know you expected me to say it did work, but it didn't. But I took out this stick of memory that was in the system. This is a 1 gig stick of PC DDR2 memory. And it worked. It posted. So let's fire it up and take a look at the system. Now, I won't take away the fact that I have 5 bulging caps that are in the system. Definitely needs a recap, so I'm going to be excited to do that on the channel. Here we go. We'll turn it on and see what is on the system. There we are. Let's go into F10 for setup. And there we are. We are into our BIOS. So our main just shows our system date and time. Now, it is showing, obviously, the incorrect date here of 2021 of August 28th, just because we definitely have switched that out. But it's only showing the 1 gigabyte of memory now because of the swaparoo that I did there. Under Advanced, we do have our CPU type of AMD Athlon 64X2 Dual running at 2600 megahertz. And then we have our 5200 plus nomenclature there for the processor. We have, looks like cache RAM. We have 2 megs of cache RAM. Then our primary videos are built on, primary video is PCI, so built on video, and onboard video size is showing 128 megabytes of RAM. And then we have all the usual suspects in here as well. I'm definitely excited that we have the second computer up and running and posting. You know, this computer could have been tossed to e-waste by simply this. A stick of memory, someone just said, you know what, I'm tossing it. Or they were done with the computer, of course. But by the fact that the hard drive is removed, by the way, even though I'm disappointed the hard drive is removed, I'm excited because people are doing that. You know, in a few of my other videos, you know, people weren't doing that, and I was seeing a bunch of personal data. So definitely cool that that's not there. I'm disappointed, though, that, you know, the drive is in here. So whoever had this obviously stripped it down, wasn't working, stripped it down, and went to a different system. But we have the core basic working here. We have the ability to upgrade the RAM pretty well on the system. The processor isn't terrible. So I would like to do more experimentation with this system. So let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see that as well. But I definitely want to recap this board, get a proper hard drive installed, get a proper media drive or optical drive installed, and see what we can do with this system. Now, we're 2 for 2. A little bit of troubleshooting, but we're getting there. Let's try system number 3. Okay, here we are with system number 3, our Dell system. Another Dell on the bench. Surprise! It seems like there's a lot of Dells out in the market for sure. This system I actually forgot about while I was doing the other 2 systems. I wasn't looking forward to this system because it has a terrible odor to the system, for one. One of the risks of e-waste hunting when you go to do that. And I had to scrub off the front here using some isopropyl alcohol and a cloth just to read what model it is here. So it tells us a Dell Dimension 4550 is the model of the system. And in the front here, so we have our DVD-ROM drive. So it's just a DVD-ROM, no other fancy features there. Looks like the front bezel here is pushed in a bit. We'll have to come back out. We do have what looks like a floppy drive. I'm afraid to put my fingers near there, but you can, oh, just look at that. That is just caked full of dirt. And I think in one of my other videos, someone had said, oh my goodness, it's growing a beard. I never saw a floppy drive with a beard before. Well, and this might be its older brother. I'm not sure. Okay, in the front we have the standard stuff. Oh my goodness gracious, just look at that. Oh, it's terrible. Look at the dirt in there. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get that light on. There we go. Perfect. Look at that. It is just caked full. So we have 2 USB here, presumably, yeah, and a headphone jack. So let's put that down before something climbs out of it. Okay. All right, let's keep turning this around, I guess, and see what else is on here. Like I said, this system has a terrible odor, and yeah, okay. Let's flip it around the back. I believe it's one of those clamshell cases that everybody on the channel is teaching me about. Here we are on the back. So we have our power supply. We have 2 PS2, 2 USB. We have a COM port in this case. And we also have parallel. We have 2 additional USB here. So interesting, they're broken out here. We also have the Ethernet. Looks like we have a dedicated graphics of some sort. I hesitated because I saw the sound card is kind of bent here a little bit. So I don't know what's going on here in this area here, but we're going to find out in a minute. And then this also has S-Video by the looks of things. And then we have a game port with audio there. Okay, let's see this because I'm interested in getting this open. Okay, here we are. We have the clamshell Dell. It's terrible, I know. All opened up on the bench here and is absolutely disgusting inside this computer. I won't lie. Dirty, 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 dirty. So it looks like we have not 1 but 2 optical drives, and this one here is just kind of floating around in here. I don't know what that was about. I didn't see any indication there was a second drive in this system, but it looks like it's another DVD-ROM drive. So we have 2 DVD-ROM drives in this computer, and nothing was hooked up in it. So interesting that that's just kind of floating along in there. And it looks like we do have a floppy drive. Well, I said that earlier because it had the quote-unquote beard on the front. We have a place where a hard drive or hard disks would be installed. Unfortunately, because of the proprietary nature of this drive or this system, we have a couple of the slots that would be used here missing that would be attached to the drive. But fortunately, it looks like Dell thought about that and has included 2 spares here. At least I think that's what they're for, to be able to put on the side of a drive, to be able to slide one in. I mean, worst case scenario, I use a CF adapter, but we all know how I don't like to do that. We'll see what we can do to get this system all cleaned up and going. All right, looking at the actual system itself and the board, just awkward to work with in the system. I just don't love the layout at all. So we have 2 IDE. We have a front panel header here, which is proprietary to the board, going to the front USB and audio connectivity. We have the power supply connector here, and it looks like there's Molex. Do we have any SATA anywhere here? I'm not seeing any SATA. We have our power supply here as well, directly being fed via the fan exhaust, and this is a Pentium 4 system. Now, the issue here with the sound card is that it's outside of this kind of latching system that they have going on here. So I'm going to see if I can pop that off. Okay, so I just got to squeeze up on that to get that off. So we got that up, and here is the first look of the kind of bent in there sound card. So we have an A-Open AS9400 sound card that's installed in this computer, and it shows the different headers for Sony, Panasonic, aux-in, PC speaker in. That's pretty cool that it has that functionality built onto the sound card itself. Neat sound card. Now, this model here says model AW840. That's probably Acer's model there, and the chip is the AS9400. If you know anything about this card, let me know in the comments down below. But again, as I mentioned earlier, A-Open was really popular with their peripherals and components. So let's put that aside for a moment. Now, the actual video card, what are we looking at for a video card here? And it is not letting me take it out because it's hooked in. Let me see here. All right. Here is the video card that we have. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, here we go. NVIDIA Corporation, model P73. So whatever that is. So I'm going to pop that back right back in where it came from. There we are. Now, the other thing I noticed in here, I just put the sound card back in. The other thing I noticed back here, though, is that it does have the covers missing here. So it must have been populated with some other different components here. So we have 2 RAM slots, which are populated on the board here. Not sure what it is. A P4 system, you know, is it 2 512 sticks, 2 256 sticks, or 2 128s? Who knows? We're going to power it on here, hopefully power it on to C. I'm going to pop this back down. I reseated the sound card properly in there now. Okay, let's get this all closed up get it set up properly on the bench, get it connected to the peripherals, and see if we can get this system number 3 posting. Okay, and we're back all set up. Let's power up the Dell and see if it works. So far so good. We have green light. Looks like it's posting. Okay, so we have Phoenix ROM BIOS Plus. Dell System Dimension 4550 series, so we saw that in the front. Performing automatic IDE configuration. We do not have any drives, unfortunately, so that's 3 for 3. We don't have any drives installed, so kudos to everybody tossing their drives and recycling them and saving your data. Bad for the channel in the sense that I wanted to at least demonstrate it working. Okay, strike 1 to retry boot, or F2 for setup utility. We're going to hit F2. It's probably complaining because the battery's probably low. Okay, so we do have an Intel Pentium 4 running 2.4 gigahertz in this computer with 512 integrated level 2 cache. The date's clearly wrong. It's not 2003, but we know that. CPU information, so we have the bus speed here, we have the clock speed, all that stuff there. It's great. Memory information. So we have 1 gig of RAM, so 2, 5, 12, 6 of memory. System memory speed, 266 megahertz, so it's great to know. We know there's no drives installed. I mean, we already talked about that. Yeah, the rest is pretty standard stuff. I'm very excited. I'm glad we have a system, another Pentium 4 in the mix. Definitely excited to get this up and going. This computer needs more than a scrubbing. I almost feel like dumping in a pool of water and taking my chances. Just, it is so dirty and smells so bad right now with the fan running, and I don't know what was in it or what spilled on it, or it just really needs a good scrubbing to get this up and running again properly. Okay, that said, we now have 3 computers on the bench, all 3 posted. And I may add, the Dell did it without any involvement from me or any intervention from me. I didn't have to do any troubleshooting to get this up and running. It's really exciting to see another Dell on the bench. Let's get this all cleaned up and get a recap done of all 3 computers. And here we are, all set up back with our 3 e-waste systems saved again on the Retro Recall. Really excited to have all 3 of these computers back in the game. I do realize that there's some work that has to be done to all 3 systems to get them up and running. And in this Acer that we had an Athlon X2 64 4400 plus running 2 gigs of memory, that system required, not so much obviously, because other than the CMOS battery being replaced, we have it posting. So it does need a hard drive installed and it does need a good cleanup. But again, let me know in the comments. Should we use that as a test system for Vista? Upgrade the memory the best we can. What can we do with that system? Then we also have the Hewlett-Packard Pavilion system here, which again is sporting the Windows Vista case badge as well. This system was the Athlon 64 Live. So I don't know what the difference is between Live and not in terms of their processors. So if you can let me know in the comments, I'd appreciate that as well. But that was a 5200 plus CPU running 2 gigs of RAM as well. That system would not fire up either until I discovered it was the bad stick of memory that I pulled out of the system. So great to have that posting as well. And then we have Dell El Stinko here, the Dell Dimension 4550 Pentium 4 running 2.4 gigahertz and 1 gig of memory. This seems to be completely intact minus the hard disk. This needs a complete wipe down, scrub down, and I accept the challenge on this channel. I've experienced quite a bit of dirt going through a lot of these systems, but I will say by far this is probably the dirtiest that I've come across, not only because of dust, which is easy to suck out and blow and do whatever you need to do to get rid of it, but the filth and the grime that's just on the physical look, the case itself is just so dirty. Anyway, definitely cool to have all 3 of these systems in the collection. Definitely lots of work to do to get all these 3 up and running, more so some than others. Let me know about your experiences if you've had these systems in your mix at home, in your career, or you've come across them in the wild. Definitely really cool to hear your experiences. That said, if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button and change it to all. You'll be notified of new content such as this. Please leave a comment below. I respond to every single comment on this channel. I love the interaction and I'm always making new content. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.